Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Metacast. I was supposed to say Metaverse again. But yes, welcome to the Metaverse and a blended reality where we're doing another session. And this one is going to be super amazing because it's Halloween time and we have not changed our background to Halloween. So apologies. But yes, we will do that. That's I, I should be ashamed of myself, but cool. Okay, so guys, we have an amazing guest today, who's Krista is joining us today. Hey, Krista, hi, and
Krista.
welcome to the Metacast. So, Krista,
Hi,
guys,
everyone.
hi, hey. So, just to let everyone know, Krista is the Eventually XR. She's basically into all things metaverse and tech, which is VR, AR, artificial intelligence, Web3, but also into IoT, neurotech, and is also designing products within the metaverse. So it's amazing to have you with us, Krista, today. Any opening thoughts that you want to share with us today?
Well, I usually start with the definition of metaverse because when people talk about metaverse, they every time have a different point of view what it really means, and I think there isn't just one definition of what metaverse is. But to say it shortly, I usually talk about the 3D layer of the internet or 3D virtualization of the world.
Would you define that in the metaverse in its more simplest explanation?
Thanks. I try to put it because I also feel that I still need to educate people that what we are talking about, what we have at our hands. So it's not clear, not even the people who are in this business.
Got you. Yeah.
Definitely. Krista, also, I think there's so much going around with how people are defining metaverse. There's also, there's so much curiosity within this field. Of course, you've been there for a long time. What worries you in the near future in terms of the metaverse context when we talk about something like privacy? There's also, there's so much questions about privacy, not in just the Web 2 space, but now it's also progressing towards Web 3. We've seen what's happened with social media apps like Twitter and a lot of other things that have been happening, in terms of control, in terms of conversations, articulation. What do you see with platforms that are based in Web3? Do you see any future concerns coming up? Anything that we should be aware about in terms of this space?
Well, what I see Web3 is a very positive thing, of course, because then we talk about decentralization and being control of our own data. But I don't know how quickly that it's actually going to happen and who's going to drive that forward. Because if you talk about what we see, what's internet like today, of course, the big tech companies are on the top of where the internet is today. So my thought is that metaverse will look like the tech giants in the future too, because who has the money to invest in this space? Well, those companies. And also that brings to privacy concerns. If the company's business is to make money with ads, of course they want our data in the future too. But I really hope there's going to be more pressure and more legal tools that we are going to be more aware what is shared about us in the metaverse. Because when we talk about new tech like the Oculus Pro, you're going to have a new kind of data, meaning eyebrow tracking, eye tracking, mouth tracking. And when you combine those, you get a lot of emotional data. And that's a bit worried about that. Is it really going to be in my hands? Or am I going to give that data to tech companies that they can sell better ads to me at the right time, at my right emotional state?
Interesting.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think there's a perspective to it. I honestly feel like give me a second. I think just yes. So I think there's another Meta, you guys are having a glitch again. We sorted it out. We sorted it out. Okay. So sorry. So Krista, I think since you mentioned about privacy and eye tracking, this has been one thing which was being spoken about. It's not something that um we I think a lot of us knew about the fact that Meta might be having an eye tracking tech that will be introduced in the next set of Oculus headsets. That was there in the news. A lot of people worried, like, okay, yeah, that's big. You know, you're having eye tracking. I would say this personally because I studied neuromarketing at King's, and we were exposed to a scenario where we could do heat mapping analysis for websites as to how people perceived, website performance. Something that a lot of people have seen before. Now, when we talk about eye tracking within these spaces, of course there is a sense of fear because when you, as you rightly mentioned, when you say free will, it's, do you even have free will? Because our the way we are using these headsets and the way our actions are being conveyed in these headsets, it is actually data. It's being conveyed as timestamps, and uh, how will it
Yeah.
impact the way we perceive products and we perceive things? Because I think
Yeah.
I saw a recent example as well, that there are certain billboards that change the way they show their ads based on how you look at them. And there was an experiment that was recently conducted. I don't know. I think I saw an ad on LinkedIn and I was like, okay, this freaks me out. But
Yeah.
of course,
Yeah, it,
so
it certainly gives a tool to make a heat maps, as you mentioned, and how quickly you scan the content and where your eyes are attached and how long time until you move to the next step. And when you thought about you are a professional in marketing, the A/B testing is of course the key. How do you make the content better all the time? So if you see data that, okay, this content when it's put there, it gets better performance. So those kind of opportunities are there now.
definitely,
Yeah.
it's exciting, but it's scary at the same time. I mean,
Yeah.
exciting for marketers, but
Ca-
like
How,
for
how come you?
sorry.
There's something on my mind. How can you regulate this environment, Krista? How do you think we can prevent this sort of dystopian world from becoming a reality? Because it feels like an inevitable change that's going to happen. It's not a matter of if it will happen. It's a matter of when. But how can we sort of control it at this point? And
Yeah, it's a big question because the legislation machinery always lags behind years what the tech is capable to do. And it's always also like a big question in EU. Of course, it's much more regulated. We have the GDPR, but in the States, in China, it's less regulated, and sometimes it's a competitive. It gives US and China competitive advantage that they are less regulated. But then again, if you ask me, I prefer more regulated because then I feel like I'm less manipulated, if I may say so.
yeah, agreed. Agreed. Someone like China, where it's not regulated as much, big data is the new currency.
Yeah,
So the more data that they have access to, the more they can benefit themselves, benefit the brands they represent, which is a scary thing to think of when there's not when they're operating in an environment that's not regulated.
definitely.
Yeah,
And also,
that's
I think when it comes to scenarios from Web 2, how the iOS 14 brought so much impact for how we created ad sets and how we targeted individuals on social media. I think it was that point where I when I was a media buyer, I remember I was exposed to this scenario and I was like, okay, what's really going to happen to the way we do things? But yes, I think there's this big consideration that's coming in terms of a lot of people. When there has been this conversation, Krista, I would love to share this with you. On a very recent load, I actually spoke with this person who came up to me and said, hey, you do advertising, right? I was like, yeah, I do ads on Facebook and LinkedIn and all the other platforms. So he's like, um just tell me one thing. If I speak about a certain thing to another person in a room, why is it that I get an ad of the same thing? And I don't answer that. I mean, honestly, it's at this point in time, it's like, um, coincidence? You're probably geofenced in a certain way, but I mean, where do you want me to go with this? But yes, I
Yeah.
think it's the curiosity, as you rightly mentioned, when we're talking about privacy, and it's a really big point where a lot of people will have these questions, and I think it's when people like us, if we raise awareness about how we understand from in the industry point of view of how we see things and how we perceive these things, it's really important that brands like Meta and Spatial and every big brand that is involved within the Web3 space understands the concept of privacy when they're implementing these products. As you rightly
Yeah,
mentioned, the new Oculus could be a big question for a lot of people once they start seeing
100%.
ads. So
This
yes,
is this brings me on to the next question. What opportunities do you think the metaverse presents that people, I guess the average person, is unaware of at this point in time? Um, we've seen the metaverse carry a bit of a stigma. People really don't understand what it is, and people are very frightened by this this change in landscape, I guess. But people can't see the other side of the coin. So I'm curious, Krista. I just want to pick your brain. What benefits do you see this space offering?
Yeah, well, of course, the metaverse is such a big umbrella term, so maybe stepping a little bit back and putting it into smaller pieces. It depends really whom you ask. If you ask from a industry specialists, of course, the digital twins have been in recent years very popular. That you make 3D models of the factory or the industrial environment. You combine those with the sensor data, IoT data, and you get like spatial knowledge of how your factory is doing and when and where. Those kind of things. They are definitely very big opportunities, and I expect to see that more in the near future. And then I previously say about the virtualization or making 3D layer on the internet. The thing you see already is the virtual try-ons. You want to buy a new pair of sunglasses. You just swipe different models on the top of your face as a filter, or trying makeup or trying jewelry or something headpieces. Of course, that's a good thing. You don't have to go anymore to a brick and mortar shop and try out things. And of course, return rates is a big environmental issue. So if you have a possibility to virtually try on stuff, of course, the return rates are getting lower. So that's a big
That's interesting.
benefit.
That's very interesting. Like companies are trying to adopt better ESG practices across the chain, and what the metaverse provides is the ability for them to demonstrate that, hang on, we are adhering to these ESG practices across our supply chain, across the world, and even in our brick and mortar stores. I'm curious, Krista, do you think this is the start of the end for brick and mortars once the metaverse slowly starts to gain mainstream adoption?
Yeah, you're not the first person that asks that particular question from me. And I usually say that humans are a human meditated service is going to stay, but it's going to become a luxury thing. So you are expected to see more price on a human meditated services, whether it is a real human in a brick and mortar store, or real human giving healthcare, or real human serving you tickets, those kind of things. So definitely we don't want the humans go away, but there is going to be price for that.
That's interesting.
I think it's like more of a compliment coming in than a supplementary element. I think it's something.
Absolutely.
Isn't that right, Krista?
Sorry.
I'm saying it's like more of a complementary thing that's coming into our existence than it being supplemented completely for brick and mortar.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I
Definitely.
think it's for the better. But of course, once you say mediated, is something which is a very strong word that is going to be sticking around for us till we decide as to where do we want to take a stand on how we purchase. And I think that's one thing that's really amazing, because Nav from one of our previous sessions also spoke about this. And Nav itself, I think it's something that's really amazing, because when it comes to social commerce, it's easier for consumer brands and clothing and apparel to be experienced than what we were experiencing in e-commerce websites. So yeah, it's kind of a change that we are seeing out in the future. Krista, also one more thing. I think once it's it's amazing to know what's happening right now, how you and everyone else is all involved within the space right now. Who do you think will be creating the content for the future in platforms like these? And how should I put it? Like when it comes to content that is going to be present in the metaverse, who are the people behind this, and what would be the ideal motivations that will drive these changes and that drive these creations in the future?
Yes, that's a very, very relevant question, because we have seen many different metaverses or 3D worlds that run, and there are no users. And why there are no users? Because there are no engaging experiences, no engaging places where to go. So yes, there needs to be interesting content in those metaverses. And who's going to do that? Well, of course, part of the company who builds the kind of metaverse, but of course, one way how they make money is to sell virtual land in those metaverse. And when they sell virtual land, they are hoping that somebody will eventually build something on the virtual land that helps people to come and play or see virtual galleries, whatever. But there's a huge demand for people who are good content creators, designers, 3D artists, and currently there are just not enough people. So yeah, a lot of designers, a lot of creative minds is needed. I hope AI will help in the near future, that not everyone needs to be a Unity or Unreal developer background, but definitely to keep a metaverse interesting place to come and stay, there needs to be very beautiful and engaging content.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And
I
yeah,
think
you asked me what's the motivation. Well, we have seen one model, of course, which is these DAOs that you create content and then you are rewarded with the tokens.
Yeah.
It's part and parcel with the creator economy that the Web3 offers. Web2 was the social economy with decentralized social media platforms, and now we're shifting towards the creator economy, and DAOs and tokenizations are key elements of that.
awesome. And definitely. And Krista, I wanted to know, going back to the same answer that you shared, um, when you say something like selling virtual lands, would this mean that these lands are sold off to brands, like how it happens in the real estate phase, in reality, how projects come up and brands acquire spaces to set up their own showrooms and how they present themselves. Do you think that once these places are these metaverse platforms and virtual lands are made, the first movers of these places should be brand known within our communities to increase penetration? Should that be the ideal opportunity to increase penetration for users?
I think we need both. Definitely the community-driven content, because then they are very well targeted. The community knows what people in that space, what they want, what they are like. So they are like super sharp creating those kind of content what the community wants to see. And brands don't always have that knowledge. They are learning, and we have seen also failures that when they brands as such as it is in 2D world or real world, and then they put themselves in the first time in the metaverse and it's not at all fitting into the culture. But when they learn and understand what's the community in that particular space, the brand can create very, very, also we have seen successful collaboration brands and the communities coming together.
Yeah, I agreed.
I like that perspective because Tata, you were saying something. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
When you say collaboration, I think it's one thing that when particularly I was just I was writing an article in the morning and I was just putting my mind out in terms of how things are. If I were to say a brand has to create its own metaverse space, or maybe completely take up a space within a virtual space, like a portion of land within the space itself, I think it's not enough for a brand to be there. I think it has to collaborate and
Agreed.
It has
co-create with either the community or metaverse native brands
Yep.
who understand the space much more, because they have an understanding of how the users have moved in, what kind of activities they do, and what they really expect from brands when they're there. It's a helping hand, and if the user itself co-creates and collaborates, it's a win-win. It's something
Agreed.
that's going to help more people come in, because it's word of mouth for them.
Yeah,
So I love that answer. Honestly, it's a really accurate answer to the question that I had. Thank you so much.
it drives interaction, doesn't it? These brands collaborating with these proto metaverses like Roblox. Um, these communities, people spend hours and hours in these worlds. They know the space better than anybody. So brands need to reach out to them to say, okay, how can we market our product better, our service? How can we? It's done through trial and error. Nobody's going to get it perfect first time. But through that trial and error, the brands will figure out how we can pivot towards the metaverse and Web3 in a more and reach out to a larger audience. So I think, like you said, Adi, it's not enough just to buy land. We get it. You have access to a large amount of capital, but the truth is, the real value is how you engage with, the consumers at the end of the day.
100%. And
The biggest, yeah. The
sorry,
biggest
Krista, you were saying
fear
something.
what those metaverses when somebody is building a new metaverse start to sell land, that somebody is buying that land only to waiting that it value goes up, so does nothing, builds nothing, just waiting that when is the right time I resell the piece of land, and that's not how to make a living metaverses.
No. People in these communities are well aware of brands that do this, that just buy land and just wait until things play out. And I don't think it'll work well for them unless they engage with the community.
Yeah.
I think it's as good as saying that you make an Instagram account, but you can't wait until you get like a million followers, and then you're like, I'm gonna make my first post today.
It's true.
I think it's a constant way. I think that's where foundations of Web 2 come in. How we talk about the correct user experience of how a user has engaged within a certain community before, and how that translates into a Web 3 space where you have to do the same thing, so that you're able to build trust. Because at the end of the day, when it comes to ownership and it comes to governance, which is a Web 3 foundation, it has to be built through trust, and I think that's where a lot of users become more engaged. Yeah, I mean, Krista, it was absolutely phenomenal
Yeah.
to know these insights from you. I think it's something that's going to pan out for so many users out there, and interested, and definitely people who are curious about the metaverse. It started off with a good point. Privacy is one thing which I am pretty sure, Krista, I think you'll be joining us as an avatar once more the next
Yeah.
time. But
I'm looking forward to that.
definitely,
So
and
we are.
and
So are we.
and Krista, I think it's when it comes to ethics, the ethical metaverse, this conversation has to go forward. It has to be there more and more, so that people like us understand what is it that we are bringing as an experience to the people, as creators,
Agreed.
as strategists, as people who are designers. Um,
We're
there's
the
so
pioneers,
much.
guys.
Yeah,
We are the pioneers in this space, whether we want to admit it or not, and it's our job to get people or get these companies to understand that we want an ethical metaverse. We want ethical at the top of everything. because it's going to pan out for the rest of the world, and people like us are trying to understand this space from a deeper angle, and it's our job to bring it to the forefront. So it's great to hear that,
We're ethical champions.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, Krista, thank you so much for joining in today. Of
Thank you,
course,
Krista.
it has been a lovely session with you. And we will be having two sections of the episode. One which will be an audio based section on Spotify, and a complete video based section which will be the live session recording of this on YouTube. And also, please, guys, Krista's details will be in the description. You can follow her on LinkedIn, connect with her on LinkedIn, and have more conversations. It's going to be more and more exciting as we progress with sessions. And of course, we are having so many things coming up that we have to share with you guys, probably in the next upcoming episodes, right?
Yeah, it is a lot. It's
Great.
been awesome.
And Krista, any closing remarks that you would want to share with us before the session closes?
Yes, I still want to stay positive about the metaverse. That there has been a lot of bad connotation on the term of metaverse, but there are so many good opportunities also, so many things to discover. Stay curious, try on new stuff, try on devices, and learn.
That's it. We're all learning at the same page, aren't we?
Definitely. And also, I think there was this recent article a recent video on YouTube that I saw. I think it's called by some guy called Penguin Zo, and he has somewhere around 11 million subscribers. He just did a video called "The Metaverse is Dead," and it's a really amazing video because he's criticized every element of the metaverse, in terms of the new Oculus launch, what happened on Decentraland, and why I'm mentioning this. I am a pro metaverse guy. I understand what's coming up with Meta, and I completely get what's happening around this space. I know the criticisms, but the amazing part is that you have 2.6 million people watching this. I saw that video has 2.6 million viewers, and the amazing part about these conversations, or these criticisms that I may say, is that people are curious. They might find a lot of gaps within this space, but if you're having 2.6 million people viewing a video which is criticizing the metaverse, they will listen in some form or the other about something good that happens as well. So we're seeing a lot of people who want to know about the metaverse. So I think when it comes to when it came to the internet and Web 1, when it came to social media, privacy, and a lot of other things that progressed over time, there is a sense of curiosity, and I think that's going to build up the metaverse.
Agreed.
I am looking at something. If you watch the video, you'll feel like, my God, what the hell did he speak in the podcast? But I am still very skeptical, because if you see that video, you're like, this guy. If you're watching this, Mr. Penguin, so I don't know what your username is, but if you're watching this, I know you're curious. so I know you're very curious, and you want to know.
And you know what? I don't know how many thousand times I have heard the saying that the VR is dead, like zillion of times. Every time somebody says VR is dead, and still we are here.
Definitely,
Agreed.
Krista. And another thing is that there was another video on YouTube which said, I think I don't know the person who posted it, but they basically mentioned that Microsoft Metaverse has killed Mark Zuckerberg's Metaverse, and that was one thing that I saw 8 months back. Very recently, we came up with this concept, and we experienced, all of us experienced this, where Meta and Microsoft have teamed up.
Yeah.
So though
Mm.
definitely, I think even though we have a lot of criticisms about comparing metaverses, about what is better and what is not, there is still a sense and a consideration towards interoperability. Did I pronounce that right this time?
Bro, you've been pronouncing it right every time. You'd be too harsh on yourself.
Oh shit. Because honestly, Chris, I always pronounce it. I may pronounce it pretty weird, in a very weird way, but I don't know if it's right or wrong. So I'm just like, did that wrong again? But yes, I think 8 months later we saw the collaboration. So yes, people are understanding the value of co-creation and collaboration. I think that's where the metaverse will become much stronger than it is. So Krista, just wanted to share with you. I think your optimism to and your hope that the metaverse is going to be really positive and it's going to bring about a good change is something that is also driving a lot of curiosity for the people around you,
Yeah.
and that's going to really work. That's going to
Yeah.
really bring about a good change. I might sound like a metaverse guru, but I'm not. I'm just a kid. So, but I'm hopeful. I'm really hopeful. Anything else you want to say?
No, that's it, man. I think I've loved this session, Krista. Honestly, we'll make sure to
It's
have a
my
session
pleasure.
soon, and this time you'll be in the VR with us, and hopefully we'll have other people as well, and we can create some sort of like webinar event where people can speak and share their opinion, and maybe we might have a few debates about the metaverse. So it'll be exciting to have you then as well.
100%. Thank you, Krista. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you,
joining
Krista.
in. And
Cheers.
guys,
Thank you.
we will.
One more thing.
Yeah,
One more
sure,
thing.
please.
I could I take a picture of this screen capture?
Oh yes, of course.
Absolutely.
Go ahead. Just
Yeah.
We always do this, so yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Taken. Thank you.
Thank you so
Awesome.
much, Krista. And we'll be back with another episode next week. Till then, please subscribe and show some love to the Metacast, guys. We're coming up
Cheers,
with more
everyone.
sessions. Cheers, bye.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.